Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Um, my mic is not plugged in. Anyways, I guess we'll do this on the Zoom. Um, God darn it. This mic really does confuse me because so my computer only has like four outlets. And it has an Oro ring outlet, the outlet charge so I don't waste the portable juice on the laptop outlet, an outlet for my iPhone charger, and then an outlet for my i headphones. But the problem is it doesn't have an outlet for my microphone unless I unplug one of the other outlets. And to me, that just kind of sucks because I don't know which one to unplug. My Aura Ring needs to charge because I've been very stressful this week. And so I think like a lot of the juice on that is out. And then my iPhone charger that needs to be on, right? In case the ladies call me. Or my I think I'm gonna get rid of the iPhone one. Or I was gonna say my iPod charger. But you need the iPods right now when you're doing the day job. It helps you lose by. All right, plug it in the microphone. Let's see if this works. Excellento. All right. So yeah, guys, subscribe, rate, review. We got a great show. Um, it's gonna be fun. I'm a big fan of this person. My one of my favorite movies is Kingpin. You've also seen her in the TV show Weird Science. And she did a couple episodes of Baywatch and Stargate. The great Vanessa Angel is going to be here via Zoom. Very excited because I have a crush on her. Not going to lie, have a crush on her. Then I found out she was married. Then I was like, bummer. But she was still one of my early celebrity crushes. So she could never be, that could never be taken away from her. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, maybe not. Maybe that was a bad joke. Anyways, guys, subscribe, rate, review, help the show. We really do need the support on Apple Podcast. You could also become a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com, RazorRiff61. Be a top tier Rifter. There's so many tiers out there. If you're a top tier, I'll just give you the top tier pitch. You get the live video and you get the podcast a little early and you get a free cameo, and I thank you after every show. So yeah, be a top tier and support Razor Riffs at patreon.com/61 or patreon.com/Razor Riffs 61, Reza REZA, Riffs RIFTS 61. Also, you could book me on Cameo for your cameos. It's the season for the cameos. July is actually a pretty good month for the cameo. So support me on the cameo at www.cameo.com/Keith Reza. I'm very good at the cameos and I do enjoy them. All right, guys. Enjoy the episode with uh Vanessa Angel. It's gonna be great. Bye.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Razor Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hello?
Hey, Vanessa.
Hey, hi, sorry about this. I've had some technical difficulty.
Oh, no worries. Thank
I,
you
I
so
just,
much.
you're welcome. I just moved and I cannot figure out my internet and all this stuff. But
Oh, If I knew anything about the internet, I would be able to help you, but I know nothing about the internet.
Me too. I am such a technical moron. It's so embarrassing, but I guess that's what happens when you're old and you can't keep up with. Let me just see if I can move this forward a little. Hold on.
Okay.
I feel like I'm too far away. Hold on. Sorry. There you
No
go.
worries. All right, cool. Well, thank God for the trusty iPhone, right?
The old iPhone, it doesn't disappoint.
Yeah, yeah. I love it how every year there's a new iPhone too. It's like a big
Yes.
scam to get like another $4,000. You know what I mean?
Well, it's so annoying. And mine is actually a 12 and it's from 2019 and it's starting to get super glitchy. And
Yeah.
I know, but I love the camera. I prefer the camera. Like the new cameras are so sharp. They're like, I mean, they're great for some things, but like, I don't know. I'm sort of attached to my 12 Pro, but I know I'm gonna have to change it. And I know that they make it like that. They force you to kind of have to get the updated one, right?
Exactly. It's a scam, Vanessa, I'm telling you. But I think people like iPhones because of the camera, because I mean,
Yes.
so I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't know, but I'm kind of like, not to go off topic, but I'm kind of in two minds. It's like I love having like a camera, just like on me all the time. But then
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of ruined the world too because you because you can't, or society, because like everybody's just on their screen and taking photos and not like actually being completely present in the moment.
No, for sure. I also think like cell phones have changed the world because remember back in the olden days when you wanted to call someone, you'd pick up your phone and you'd be like ring,
Yes.
ring.
Oh, no, the old rotary. Oh, you're not
Yeah.
that old, are you?
And then you'd be like, "Oh, I hope she picks up so we could still do this podcast," And but now it's like all texting and stuff. You're like, "Ah,
Oh, I know. It's so weird. And then in fact, if my phone rings, I like jump and I'm like, who's actually calling me on the phone? The audacity.
uh, but before we start, I wanted to ask you because you do a lot of interviews. I wanted to ask you, is it
Yeah.
easier for you to be interviewed by like a random normal person or like a celebrity who's in your same field type of way?
Well, that's an interesting question, actually. I found myself, I've done less podcasts actually in the last year, probably because I was doing like too many, I think, for a while. And then you start to feel like you repeat the same stories. But
Yeah.
I would say that, like, uh, most people who maybe aren't in the industry, but, appreciate the movie and film industry and actors and whatnot, performers, they tend to ask this sort of similar questions about like what a specific movie experience was like, and that's wonderful. But and I understand that that's what most of the audience wants to hear. But I feel like I've told a lot of those stories
Yeah.
over and over again. So I'm actually at a place in my life where I prefer, in a way, talking about like what's really going on with me in my life. And I know most actors don't want to talk about their personal life, and I'm not suggesting I want to talk about my personal life, but just like I feel like I'm not just my greatest hits anymore.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah.
Although
So,
I am to most people, but like in my world, it's like I feel like I have more going on than just sort of telling stories from Slides Like Us or something. Although
oh
those
yeah.
are all wonderful memories and they're wonderful things to relate, to people. But yeah, I just my life has shifted a lot in the last 5 years, so I have a sort of different approach to things now.
No, definitely. And I was gonna say because I'll try my best to respect that, but I'm like a D-list celebrity, like not to brag. So I think that, you know, so I think
Well,
like,
I think I'm an F-list celebrity, so you're
no,
ahead of
no, no.
me.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. So I kind of like, I kind of get it. So that's what I was trying to say. But
Oh, okay. Well, I
yeah,
yeah, I got the sense that you get it. So we're
yeah.
good.
Yeah. And the only question, to be honest with you, I had on spies like us is it must have been very, very cold.
Yeah, it was very, very March in the fjords of Norway is pretty cold at
Yeah.
night, especially because we shot quite a bit at night, so it was very, very cold. We all
Yeah.
had like long johns and like 15 layers on underneath our big puppy suits and
Yeah.
down in Chevy's crazy furry things.
I'm actually like very jealous of you because you got to work with Dan Aykroyd, and Dan Aykroyd is one of my personal heroes because I have autism, I have Asperger syndrome, and Dan Aykroyd is like the biggest celebrity with Asperger syndrome. So he's like a
Oh,
huge inspiration to me.
oh my God. I mean, he was literally probably, the for outside of John Landis, who directed Spies Like Us, he was the first person that I met really in the industry. And um just an incredible person, just the warmest, sweetest, funniest, embracing, lovely person. And if it wasn't for Dan, I don't know whether I would have continued actually in this business because he made that experience so wonderful
Yeah.
that I wanted to continue, because I was 18 and it just sort of landed in my lap. And I really do credit him for me kind of getting the bug to be an actor, actually. He was
Uh,
just incredible person. And now I look back, all these years later, and I recognize some of that quirkiness and some of his particular talent uh under the umbrella of Asperger's. And I've also actually, strangely enough, I didn't know this about myself growing up, but I had, ADHD and all, and not to make it about like, oh, woe is me and my issues, because everybody's got their issues, but I now understand myself better by understanding some of what I had going on, like
yeah.
atypical brain type stuff. And I literally, it took me till my 50s to understand that. Now I can look back and so much more makes sense. If I know people are not into sort of labels and oh well, you're this, you're that. I know we're all very complex humans, but it's actually made me understand a lot of my past and my history and my experience of my life, knowing certain things like that about myself.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's awesome because it's also like a lot of success because that is part of you too. And even though like, when you were growing in this industry, not making it all about you and stuff, because now society, that's kind of what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I have this, I have that. When back
Yeah.
then there wasn't a lot of information about that stuff, you
No,
know?
there wasn't. I literally like I can't believe we're like diving in deep this early, but yeah, I mean, as a child, I literally could not sit still, and I was a gymnast too, so I was literally like be sitting at the dinner table with my family, and I just have to get up and do cartwheels and backflips, and at school I couldn't focus. I was very smart, but I couldn't like focus on all these things now that I'm like, oh my God, well, that was so easy that was ADHD, like no question. And I did weird things, I used to like rock back and forth. I could like, yeah, I mean, like weird stuff that my parents were like, oh, that's just Nessie. That's
Yeah.
just Nessie being Nessie. And I'm like, no, I had some serious atypical brain problems.
Uh,
But now I look back and I realize that made me a very creative person and think outside the box, and it helped me in my career ultimately because I could, use some of those complex human things for my work. And so now I see it as a gift, but it's definitely had its moments of challenge.
Oh,
But I'm
definitely.
sure, not to get into like the atypical brain talk, but I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I love brain talk or movie talk, whatever you want to talk about. I love it. But I'll give you like example how like this is actually kind of sad, but I kind of made it funny. So like I have a very sophisticated sense of humor. Like I'm pretty, you know, top, because
Yeah.
I do stand up, and like stand up really saved me because I was very nonverbal growing up, and now I just don't.
Wow.
Yeah, like I just couldn't talk, and now I just all I do is talk. But
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Like, what was that shift? What was that shift? Like, what made you suddenly go from like not being verbal to being able to be more verbal?
Well, because I always wanted to be an actor like you, and then like I watched stand-up comedy, and I always thought these kids are making fun of me and laughing at me. Maybe I'm funny. So when I was 15, I went to these open mics, and I just started writing jokes, and I
Wow.
started going to speech therapy and just really talking. So like,
Wow.
yeah, so the acting part has not worked out, but the stand-up
Yeah.
part has. So
Well, that's fantastic. To me, that's the hardest gift, talent. I mean, I remember being in acting class way back in the early, in sort of not early, in the late 80s. And we had to do like one of the assignments was to put on like a 5 minute stand up. Hardest, I mean, I was very young at the time, but like hardest thing I've ever done. Like
yeah,
I have so much respect for people who can do that because it's very, it takes a lot of courage to do
yeah.
that.
I think you should try it again. I think you would be
Oh,
fantastic at it.
I like hiding behind a character, like I'm actually not that comfortable. Like I'm more so now, but like I'm not that comfortable um representing as myself.
Yeah, I get that. But
Yeah, that's why I like acting.
so like back to the story was like, and this is actually very sad. 3 days ago, the co-host of this podcast, my best friend, he died, and my
What?
man, yeah, and my
Oh my
man.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you so much. And my manager went to comfort me like at my day job because I did a nice little tribute to him. And I'm a huge Knicks fan, and the Knicks lost. So he's like, Keith, because that's my name. He's like, hey, I just want you to know I'm very sorry about Allen. You know, he was a good guy and stuff. And then jokingly, he's like, and I'm sorry about the Knicks. And then I was like, yeah, that's the most bummer one. And like it got like the biggest laugh out of him because my manager just doesn't laugh. And I was like, wow. You know what I mean? But
What? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so sorry. That's absolutely horrible, horrendous thing. That's
yeah, I mean,
very hard to deal with that.
I hide behind humor. I think that's what I was trying to tell you is that's my insecurity, so but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what the great comedians do. I mean, that's what's so interesting to me about the Dan Aykroyds and the Bill Murrays and the Chevy Chases and all the, Robin Williams and, just, so many of them. Uh, that there's this sort of, there's this extreme humor and then there's extreme sadness and darkness, I think,
yeah.
as well. Like the spectrum of emotions is just greater than most people, and I think that that's why uh they can they can really touch people so much because what I mean. Like the best comedians to me are actually probably in tune with their own darkness more than most people. Most people just want to avoid that stuff and they just don't want to look at it and they don't want to go there. But to
Yeah.
me, that's what's amazing about really incredible comedians is that they can really tap into what makes something funny is also what can be extremely dark and twisted.
No, yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to try and keep you away from the same stories. So if
Oh
you've
no, it's okay. I can,
oh,
whatever you want to ask me, I'm cool. Like
well,
I'll ask.
this might actually make you laugh, but one of my favorite movies growing up, and I apologize because I don't know if this is one of your favorites you filmed, but I loved Super Babies, Baby Geniuses too.
You
And
did.
yeah, and I was just wondering, like how because like that was like everybody didn't like it, I guess,
Oh, it won a Razzie for worst movie of the year, I think.
but I thought it was great. And I don't know if that's
But
just like a little hidden skeleton out of the closet type of thing, but I thought it was fantastic.
well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think you were the only person on the planet, but who did. No, that was actually it was actually I will never forget the experience of doing that movie. Firstly, I had a 6 month old daughter who I was still, not to get too in the weeds, but I was still breastfeeding, so that's a very exhausting process and
Yeah.
hard to work during that process. And it shot in Vancouver, and obviously I was so excited to work with John Voight because he's to me sort of legendary. and he could not have been sweeter. And but 9/11 happened during the shooting of that movie.
Oh, explain to
And
the folks what 9/11 was. I'm just kidding.
yeah, no, I remember driving to set, like in the car, listening to the radio, and the towers, Twin Towers, were literally collapsing. And we're like, I'm with driving with Scott Baio and some other people from the cast, and we're all like just looking at each other, like, is this really happening? And I mean, not, and then I had like, obviously the whole world was affected by it, but we all have our stories, and I just will remember that shoot primarily because obviously after that happens, the whole vibe of the world was different.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It affected the rest of the shoot, obviously, and um, but yeah, no, I mean, talking babies, right?
Yeah.
Talking babies is, and it's very hard, as they say, to don't work with small children and animals. Although I love both, but it's definitely challenging to work with small children because they can only work, so much time before they have. And actually, all the kids were twins, so they would sort of swap them out when
Oh
one.
my God. Really?
Yeah, each
Wow.
set of each kid character was a twin, so they had to just to sort of swap in and out depending on how that particular child was doing at the time. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
wish
it's
I wish I was a twin so I could be in Baby Geniuses. Like, wow.
that actually came out in the movie theater.
Yeah, yeah.
It came out in the theaters. Like I remember going to see it with in the theater, and it was like sort of like a long time after, like 2 years after we actually shot it or something. So
Yeah. I remember I sat by you in the theater. It was just you and me.
that's right. It must have been because I don't think there was anybody else that saw that movie. Yeah.
But then so then another cult classic you have, which you have a lot of cult classic films, by the way. Did you know that? Like,
I've done some weird stuff.
yeah, like you're in a cult as well. This is awesome. Like, how to be a cult classic actress. Do a lot of cult films. I
by
don't know.
default. By default, I think you never really know like how a movie's gonna turn out. But you're right. I have done some classic, some
Yeah.
great classics like Kingpin. That's a classic. But I've
Oh, that
also
is a
done
classic.
absolutely horrendous things that like no one like yourself will ever like find underneath the rocks.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to stay away from, even though I love Kingpin, I'm trying to stay away from Kingpin because I feel you don't, you're so, it's like, everyone just wants to talk about Kingpin.
No, no, no. I'll talk about Kingpin. I loved Kingpin. Obviously, it was the best thing I've ever done, probably. So I don't have a problem talking about it. But I no, I'll talk about whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about this cult classic first, just to get the mood for Kingpin. Uh,
Okay.
Raging Sharks.
Ah!
Every time.
With the stock footage, with the
Yeah.
stock like shark footage from like
Yeah.
movie from like 50 years ago or something. Yeah.
Whenever it's Shark Week, Raging Sharks is always on. So it's like
But
a
actually,
big, yeah.
I was great. I mean, we shot that. I mean, first of all, I met Corin Namek on that movie, and he's wonderful, and he's still a friend of mine. And I actually just did another movie with him last September. So that was probably the best part of doing Raging Sharks. But we shot it in Bulgaria in Sofia,
Yeah.
so I got to go to Sofia for several weeks, and that's always fun. Like that to me, when I look back now in my career, is I've got to travel to a lot of different countries and places that I probably wouldn't have had I not been doing this. So every movie is a little adventure that's completely outside of how the movie turns out or what people think of the movie, or that I can do my part, and how the end result of the movie is sort of beyond my control. So
Yeah.
now I look back and I feel like, I mean, I can remember like walking through Sofia with Corin and some other cast members, and I can remember those experiences, way, way beyond like the actual movie. I don't think I ever saw the movie actually.
It
I
was
don't think I
great.
saw the
You
movie.
gotta watch it every once a year on Shark Week. They
I'm too
play
scared
all
to
the
watch
Shark
it.
movies.
There
Yeah.
was just a lot of like a lot of this going on. Oh my god! Oh my.
Yeah. But no, I mean that's gotta be like the coolest thing though about being a movie star is like not necessarily filming the movies, but traveling to the locations.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
the best part. I mean, that's how I feel about doing Comic Cons too. Like I've been doing Comic Cons for the last 20 years, and I've gotten to go to some incredible cities that I would never have gone to. You know, like Frankfort, Kentucky, or just places that I probably wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to Frankfort, Kentucky, but I get to go there, and I get to. And, I always take time to go, look around the city and do, whatever free time I have. I really explore.
Yeah.
And so that's great. And I get to meet people from different walks of life and different areas. And that, I think it helps you to understand people, when we're only in our own little worlds around, like-minded people. Um, you don't really get a full sense of, what's going on and what people are thinking and feeling. And, that's as an actor, obviously, I play people, and so the more you understand and know people, the more you can be better at playing roles and just understanding humans and being in the world in a better way.
No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've only done one movie. It was about a bank robbery. It was really, really bad. It's called Terrible People, probably worse than Baby Geniuses. But
Terrible people. I love that title though. That's a great title.
yeah. But
Were you a bank robber or you were
I
like
was a
a
bank
teller?
robber and I was the first one to get killed. And I remember when I got the part, they're like, yeah, so we're going to take you on set you've never been to before. I was like, all right, cool. They're like, it's a bank. I was like, I've been to a bank before.
Well, you're lucky you actually shot at a real bank because I've done stuff that were like fake banks in fake
Yeah.
set, like on a stage. And to me it's like I can get a lot more when I'm actually shooting a scene in the actual real place rather than like a sort of mock-up set thing.
Yeah.
I can it kind of, there's a sort of vibe that comes with a real location that I like better.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So
So
I have to
like
see this movie. Terrible People, did you say?
terrible people. Yeah, I'll send you a copy if you really want to see it, but it's really
What
bad.
year is that?
Oh God, I have to IMDb it, Vanessa. I think it was 2012, 12, yeah. 12,
Hmm.
13. It's the only thing I've ever done. But
Well, did you enjoy it?
no.
No.
No. I mean because I do stand up and I write jokes. I'm not really
Yeah.
that type of. I mean, I'd want to be, but it has to be something that's written. Like you said, the Dan Aykroyd's, the Chevy Chase is something
Yeah.
where it's written in my style.
Yes.
You know
That
what I mean?
that isn't that interesting because sorry, I'm like my hip I'm sitting on my couch and my hip is
Oh my gosh!
I gotta move my legs. I
Yeah.
broke my hip like 3 years ago and now I have like hip pain if I sit too long.
Oh my God! If I would have known that, I would have like if I interviewed you 3 years ago, I would have given you a hip for thanking you for doing this interview.
Where were we? What did you just ask me?
Oh, we were talking about styles and how, like, the
Oh,
style of a
yes.
script has to fit you as an artist in order to really pull it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to segue by saying that like I understand that completely because I have a tendency to want to paraphrase. And when I remember specifically working on that show Stargate, I mean, it is so hard when you're working on a character where the dialogue, I was played a Tok'ra, and the Tok'ra speak in a very, very specific. I don't know if you're familiar with Stargate, but the Tok'ra speak in a very, very specific way,
Yeah.
and my brain did not want to like hold on to the words the way that the writer constructed them. And I am a big believer in trying to honor the words of the writer
Mhm.
and not kind of always try to make it your own because a lot of times the writer has a very specific, you know, cadence or idea of this character, and each word is specific. So I do try to honor writers' words, but oh, there's some characters that you read and it just flows off, and you just know that it's like, I don't know, you just sort of resonate. It just resonates very easily. And then there's
Yeah.
other characters where I have to learn the line like rote over and over and over again because my brain doesn't want to speak like that.
No, yeah, definitely. You were talking about the Comic Cons. I was wondering, do you like ever get like when the fans meet you, like do you ever get like fans that like say you're in Los Angeles doing a Comic Con, right? And then the next day you're in the San Diego doing a Comic Con. Do you ever see like fans just like groupie you and be like, ah?
Well, it's I've only ever done one. I did the San Diego Comic Con when it very first started when I was on when I was on Weird Science in the mid
Yeah,
90s, before it was like as popular as it is. And then I've only ever done one other one in LA. Usually, because LA, there's so many actors and people in the industry that there's not as much of an interest, I think, in Comic
yeah,
Con here as in other markets. But no, I mean, I do have my avid fans. I would say more. I notice them more really on social media, like people who just and how can you not appreciate people loving you and
yeah.
appreciating your work? It's a wonderful thing. I mean, yeah, but it's weird, and I'm sure you understand this yourself too, that you are you. I don't think of myself the way fans do. They see me through the lens of, work that they've seen of mine, movies or TV shows or whatever. And they had a particular meaning for those people in their life. Like, I get a lot of feedback from, Weird Science, and you helped me get through my childhood, and and obviously it was that show particularly was aimed at teen boys, and now that those people are now 41 or 2 or 3 or something, and
Th-
I was a little part of their childhood, and that's a wonderful thing to know that, like, I actually had that kind of impact on someone, even though obviously it's not the level of Friends or some major show that was global like that, but
yeah.
it's really sweet to know that you affected people in a positive way, because ultimately I think that that's what we want to do. We want to try and share our humanity and share what it is to be human, and if you can connect in whatever way you can connect with people in that in a helpful way is a great thing.
No, definitely. So like while you were telling me that story, I just had like a little Asperger moment. Like if
Yeah.
if I was one of these fans that came up to you after a Comic Con, right? And I'd be like, "Oh my God, Vanessa, I loved you in Weird Science. Oh, you were like my dream girl, I loved you so much." And then you say thank you, and I was like, "Unfortunately, I'm married now." Anyways, it's always nice to make a guest smile, Vanessa. I wanted to ask you about Johnny and Clyde, which had
Mhm.
Megan Fox in it, and you only had a couple scenes in it, but I thought that was
Yeah.
actually pretty good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, actually that was my first time working with this production company out of Rhode Island, and I've mentioned them quite a lot because I've done 4 movies for them in the last 3 years, like 2.5 years. So Tommy DeNucci, who's from Rhode Island, directed that movie, and I've grown to love these people that are part of this production company, and I really thought Joni and Kai was a fun ride, and I think that some of the critics, people didn't really respond to it, but I think that they were taking it too seriously or something, or they weren't quite understanding Tom's idea behind it and the vision, and I thought it was visually beautiful, and yeah, I only had like a supporting role in it, but as I said, I got to meet all these people and work with Megan and Tyson Ritter, and every movie experience, I always leave meeting somebody new that like wows me or inspires me, And it's all good. It's like I don't feel like there's a bad movie for me now because I don't, as I said earlier, I don't like do it for the, oh my God, this is going to be, the best thing for my career and everyone's going to see me differently. And it's not about like trying to get my career in a better place. It's just, I am going to live this experience with these people for however long. And that's what matters to me now. Like,
Yeah.
obviously if the movie turns out great or the TV show turns out well and people will respond to it because it's great, then that's, the icing on the cake. But that's not like why I do it. Whereas I think earlier on in my career, I was so wanting to like make the right move and like do the right project at the right time so I could get traction and I could get it's like too much strategizing. And now I'm just like, whatever, like I'm gonna have fun, whatever it is.
No, yeah, and like so that's like the big thing that's very powerful for actors and movie making and show making and all that stuff is I don't think one actor will say, "Hey, I'm taking this movie or and it's going to be like so great or it's going to be so bad." I don't think that's their mindset. I think their mindset is just to put on the best that they can for people to
Yeah,
enjoy it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, and it's a big puzzle. There's a lot of moving parts. There's so it's very complicated making a movie or a TV show. I mean, it's very complicated. So if it does turn out brilliantly, it's like wow, it is a miracle. Really,
Yeah.
it's a miracle
Yeah.
because there's so many moving parts, and there's just not one thing that is controllable. It's sort of this beautiful mess that comes together with all these different creative people and aspects and hopefully it comes together well. But if it doesn't, I'm always going to enjoy or try to enjoy the experience of making it.
Definitely. Are we good on time? Because I want to respect your time.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Okay,
I'm
cool.
good.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask you about trouble sleeping, which I
Mhm.
tried so hard to find, but I couldn't.
You
Eh,
couldn't?
no.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's actually, you know what? I'm actually kind of proud of that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played like a really troubled woman that was sort of unraveling. And the very interesting thing about it is I actually played that again opposite my real life husband at the time.
Yeah.
I was married for 22 years, and we played husband and wife in this movie, and it was a very dark movie, and it kind of like this is very I'm revealing a lot right here, but it was kind of the beginning of the end of my marriage in
Oh.
real life, which was very painful,
Yeah.
obviously. So, but the movie is really good, and the director Robert Adatui is very, very talented, and also the guy who produced it is now my manager, and I met him on that particular project. So it's a really good. I mean, it kind of it it released later, a few years later, but it should be available on Amazon. So, but I have a copy I can send you if you want. So,
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Because
but it's yeah, no, I played like a very mature. It was sort of like the beginning of me being able to play more my age and be able to kind of bring the maturity level that I hadn't probably in something prior to that. So I'm very proud of that movie actually.
oh, awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Mm.
The reason I know about it is because Fred Stoller,
Mm.
I used to tour with Norm Macdonald and Fred was on the Norm tour.
Yeah.
So, I remember Fred was saying, "Oh, I just did a movie," and
Oh my gosh.
Norm was like,
Oh yeah, I love
is it
Fred.
comedy or drama?" And Fred's like, "It's drama." And then like we were just like, "Wait, Fred, you know how to act?" Like it was just
But he's funny in it though. I
yeah.
mean, it was more of a dark. It was a drama, but it was sort of a dark comedy. It was a very strange mixture. But Fred is actually very funny in it. But he plays my like psychiatrist. Um, and he brought a lot of humor to it. So it was one of those weird movies. It's like it's kind of all over not all over the place. It has a very specific uh kind of energy to it.
Yeah.
But there are some funny moments in it.
Well, I can't wait to see it. So like that's how I heard about it, and then like And when you agreed to do the podcast, I was like, I gotta watch this, and I just couldn't find it. But
Did you see the trailer? Could you find the trailer?
I saw the trailer on
Okay, yeah,
IMDb, but I mean, that's not
yeah.
the same thing. I don't want to
No.
lie. I don't want to lie to you and be like, it was the best. And then you'd be like, oh, what was your favorite scene? I'd be like, I gotta pick a scene from the trailer.
Fred scene, of course.
But
Yeah, well, I'll find it for you and I'll send it to you.
oh, that's awesome. And then I wanted to ask you, this is another guilty pleasure of mine, Sabretooth.
You're really like hitting my greatest work
Yeah,
hit.
yeah. Then after Sabretooth, we'll talk about Kingpin. But Sabretooth, like how cool is that?
I'm Kingpin in the same yeah. No, Sabretooth. I have some funny stories from Sabretooth too, because we shot that in Big Bear, and my daughter was 6 weeks old when I
Yeah.
did that movie. And sorry, I'm like gonna disappoint all my fans because they're gonna realize that I'm actually just really wacky. But my breasts were so big because I was breastfeeding. They were literally the size of my head. I'm not kidding. They were the size of my head. And I and they had me in this outfit like I was supposed to, they had me in this with this button-up shirt,
Yeah.
and like every couple hours the shirt buttons would like pop open because sorry.
No, I was gonna say everyone
The
who
shirt
worked
open,
on
the
Sabretooth
shirt
probably
would
loved
pop
it.
open because I needed to go like breastfeed. I'm serious. So it was a very interesting shoot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, excuse me, director. I just have to go to my trailer for 10 minutes to go. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
I'll be back before the demon tiger comes. But
I'm sorry. Like you're cracking me up. Yeah, no,
oh,
that was a fun that was a fun movie.
yeah. And then another fun movie is The Perfect Score,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, that was a legit real movie.
No, that
Sorry,
was a
that's
great
terrible. I'm
movie.
making it
Yeah.
seem like all those movies, the people who were involved in those other movies were not legit. They were. I met some great people on all those movies.
Yeah.
Um, but The Perfect Score, again, it was just a little supporting role. But I was just so excited to be in a movie with Scarlett Johansson, even though I never met her. I never
Yeah.
met her on a movie, but I was very excited to be part of that. Yeah, and it was a fun little scene. Seductress, business lady, seductress.
Yeah. It was the best scene in the whole movie. But
Was it?
yeah, because you were in it. Like I was
Oh,
like,
you sweet. Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. And then we should talk about Kingpin. And
Okay.
okay, so I heard, and I wanted to see if this is true. So I heard that like Bill Murray is very, very like he doesn't have a cell phone or anything. He's very, very hard to contact. And then this is the story I heard. So let me know if this is true. So I heard he doesn't have like he's hard to contact. And then they were talking to you, and then you said, "Hey, I know how to contact Bill Murray," and that's how it happened.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you for giving me the credit. No, this is exactly what happened. And this story has been slightly like told slightly differently through different filters.
Yeah.
But yes, I had met Bill Murray through Dan Aykroyd actually, because obviously they were friends. And after I did Spies Like Us, they were all living in New York and I was living in New York. And so I was introduced to Bill Murray. And so I knew him a little bit. And after I got and he has a 1-800 number. You're right. I mean, this is before cell phones anyway, obviously. But
Yeah,
but
one
or
eight
the cell
hundred
phones were
call
like
Bill Murray.
were this
Yeah.
big, they were like giant, like you're on a military base or something. Um uh so I knew Bill a little bit, and he had a 1-800 number, and you'd have to call this 1-800 number and leave a message, and he would call you right back. Like he was actually very good about calling you back, but you just couldn't call him like without leaving a message, which was sort of odd back in those days,
Right.
even odder today. and and so I'm actually already in Pittsburgh, and I went to a Penguins game with Peter Farrelly and a couple of other people that were on the movie. And Jim Carrey was supposed to play McCracken originally, and he apparently like couldn't, like the timing wasn't going to work out. So we were literally sitting in this box up and watching the Penguins game, and Peter is trying to like think of who could replace Jim Carrey, and so all these names are being thrown around, and Bill Murray's name came up, and I'm like, oh, I know Bill Murray. He's amazing. He'd be incredible. And so I called him on my 1-800 thing, and he got back to me. And in the meantime, Randy Quaid also knew him and did the same thing. And then also, at this point, CAA, who was his agent, got involved, and it went through the legitimate channels. But I have to say that like the first person to reach him about the role was me.
Yeah.
With me.
Yo,
And,
Vanessa.
and I feel like, and I do feel like he was very excited that I was doing this movie. He was very excited for me. And obviously it was a great script and a brilliant role, although he made it way more brilliant than it probably was on the page, although it was great on the page too. And so I do feel like a little bit of reason why he ended up taking the role. And I don't think that, I know Peter has expressed this in interviews, that they didn't even know if he was even going to show up, and like they were expecting him, because we had already started filming, I think, before his character was sort of due to start working.
Yeah.
And he did show up, and obviously the rest is history. But yeah, it was a kind of interesting story behind him being Ernie McCracken.
They should give you a producer credit for that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And then it got kind of like Randy took the credit for it, because obviously Randy was and I think Randy had worked with him too and knew him and went through.
But you were the first.
But I was the first.
Yeah.
I was the first.
Yeah. You gotta stick up for yeah. If I was the producer, I'd be like, I'm giving Vanessa a producer credit. She produced Bill Murray for me.
I did. Well, yeah, you're cracking me up.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you though, what exactly is a producer? Because I told a lady a couple weeks ago that I was a producer, that like I produced this big Hollywood movie, and then we went on a date and it was great. And then the next day she sees me at Ralph's and she's like, I thought you were a producer. I was like, oh no, I work in the produce.
I think producers, the other kind of producer, they just make phone calls.
Oh, okay.
And hassle people until they get what they want. I think that's what they do.
No, definitely. Yeah. All right.
I love producers. I didn't say that. I take that back.
No, yeah. So I have 4 more questions for you, and I'll try to run through this. And this is what I heard. I don't know if this is true, but I heard you were originally cast as Xena, and then like nothing happened. So I wanted to know, what was that like?
Okay, and I this is a story I've said many times, but I will say it again.
Okay.
So when I was in the early 90s, Weird Science came up, and also there was Hercules, the Legendary Journeys, whatever they're called. And I had gone in to read for Hercules for the role of Deianira, who was Hercules' wife, I believe.
Yeah.
And but also Weird Science sort of they both came up at the same time, and they both kind of were interested in me for series regulars. And Hercules shot in New Zealand, and I had just really moved to LA, and Weird Science shot at Universal Studios in LA. So I decided to take that show. And once I started shooting, I was on the lot at Universal, and Rob Tappert, who was the showrunner for Hercules, was also on the lot. And so I would run into him at the commissary and stuff, and he just really liked me, and he had wanted me for the role of Deianira, but I chose to play Lisa in Weird Science. So he said, so he basically created the role of Xena for me. Yeah. And it was initially a 3-part role in Hercules. And long story short, I was having I'm trying to make it short. So I was on a hiatus from Weird Science. Okay. And so there was sort of a 3-month window where they were gonna bring Xena on to Hercules, and it was gonna start shooting in the beginning of January, and I had about 6 weeks prior to that of training to play Xena. So I had like martial arts trainer, and I had to do a lot of horse riding training, and there was a lot of physical stuff
Right.
required to play Xena. And it happened the timing of it happened to be right before like the Christmas holidays, and I was still going back at that point to see my family in England. So I flew back to England after doing all this, and plus I'd been shooting Weird Science, so I was really like burned out, and I ended up getting like sick on my way to England, and I was supposed to sort of spend Christmas with my family and then fly to New Zealand from England. But by like the end of December, I was so sick. Like I've never been that sick in my entire life, and I could not get out of bed.
Yeah.
So I had to like tell my agent that I couldn't fly to New Zealand, and they were so mad at me because it was between Christmas and New Year where the entire industry shuts down and there's no casting going on. So the producers in New Zealand were frantically trying to replace me, and they had, I guess they'd met Lucy, or Lucy had done like a very small little part in the prior episode or something, and they cast her
Yeah.
to play Xena because there was literally like they couldn't. I mean, and ultimately she was much better than me for it. So I look at it now and I realize that it was always supposed to be her role. It was for me to get out of the way for her to be able to play the role, but she ended up marrying Rob Tapert, and obviously doing an incredible part that they spun that character off to its own show. So
Yeah.
even if I had done those 3 episodes of Hercules, I wouldn't have been able to actually play Xena in the TV spinoff because I was still under contract to Weird Science. So it's one of those things where I just really feel like it was meant to be for Lucy Lawless to play her.
Yeah. That's also
Yeah.
like one of those weird signs where it's like, holy Lord, thank God I got sick. Right.
Well, I mean, believe there's a part of me that's like, oh man, I could have been Xena because I mean, and I get this question all the time, and and that the show ended up becoming this massive like global success, much more than Weird Science. So I think I probably like actually like got screwed, but I on a universal energetic level, I do feel like that Lucy was Xena. So that's the way that it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you about Fire Trap. Like, how is that?
Not one person in any podcast for 20 years has asked me about Fire Trap.
Yeah, I just think that's the coolest name.
It was a fire trap.
Yeah.
It was like Towering Inferno, like circa 1999.
Well, I actually did just rewatch it because I'm interviewing a Richard Tyson in a couple days, so
Oh yes.
I wanted to get my
Oh.
fire trap skills on deck.
Well,
But
tell him
yeah.
I said hi. Wasn't Richard was in Kingpin, wasn't he too?
Yeah, yeah.
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 Was
I
he in
was
Kingpin?
yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
I'll say Richard, my future wife Vanessa Angel says hi.
No, really say hi to him.
Oh, I
Yeah, no,
will, yeah.
Fire Trap. That was one of those just sort of straight offers, and you read the space, it is what it is.
It's a
But
good
again,
popcorn movie.
is it? I never saw the movie.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty
Is it
cool.
good?
Yeah.
Isn't it like a building like is on fire, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, but like I said, I like those movies where, because I like movies where I could just like not take it too seriously and just
Seriously,
enjoy it.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
it's not a massive effort you have to focus. Now, was I good in it though?
You were fantastic. You were great in everything, Vanessa.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
nice to hear, Keith. Thank you so much.
yeah, definitely. And
I
then
appreciate that.
I have two more questions. I'm sorry. Are we good on
Okay.
time? I wanted to.
We're good on time.
All right. So Hall Pass.
Mm.
Yeah, right. Hall Pass was great too. You gotta admit that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Anytime you're working with the Farrelly Brothers, it's great.
yeah,
And anytime you're doing a studio movie, it's like a whole other level. But no, I was very, very happy that they asked me to play Missy, and I mean, how many years? It was about 15 years after Kingpin, and I walked on the set, and you just feel like you're like 15 years didn't go by. It was
Yeah.
weird. Like, and they're such lovely people, like genuinely lovely people. They have a lot of their family and friends that work on their movies, and so you're just sort of, so it's like it feels like a family setting. It's hard to explain. They're just very warm people. They're funny. They're very embracing. As I said, you end up seeing people that they have their friends do all these cameos and their family members. So it's just a fun experience. And
Do you,
obviously Jason Sudeikis is brilliant and one
that
of
was
my
like his
favorite
first
people.
big things, right?
It
Yeah.
really was actually, but
Yeah.
he's so great. And then obviously Owen Wilson is amazing, and the two women were incredible in it too.
Yeah. And then you were incredible in it too. And I wanted to ask you, like, do you think Hall Pass was a movie that when like the newlyweds, let's call them, like if you were married within 2009-ish, 2014, that Hall Pass kind of like put a little, I don't know, resentment on marriages because it's like, hey, where's my Hall Pass? You know what I mean? Like, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's what we did. I
Yeah.
think it's what we did.
So,
Although obviously, by the end of the movie, the lesson is it's not worth it, right?
yeah, yeah. And then Vanessa Angel, I actually do have one more question after this. I apologize.
It's okay. Ask
This
away.
this is so great. I'm talking to my soulmate. I want I, I wanted to ask you where can the folks at home follow and support you? Like you have a social media for
Yeah,
that?
right. I do. I have I'm on Instagram, and I do have a public Facebook page, although I tend to not go on that as much, but I'm not on anything else. I'm not on TikTok or it's enough for me. Instagram's enough for me.
Yeah,
So yeah, I am a real Vanessa Angel because I'm real.
you are real. All right. Oh, but like so I wanted to ask you or do you think that like you know how like when you're starting like everyone wanted autographs and pictures and stuff? Like do you think like podcasts is now like the thing that's replaced all that stuff?
Say it again.
Oh, okay. So like
Replace actors, you mean?
no,
Oh,
like fans and
okay, yeah.
like you know if
Public,
like you
yeah, no,
sign a picture. It's like, to Keith, my future husband, thank you for the best time on your podcast. And I frame it, I'm like, yeah. And then everyone's like, you know what I mean? Like, I think a podcast is kind of like, it's like the new autograph picture type of thing,
right.
you
Well,
know?
actually, I think the cameo is like a new autograph picture, right? You do
Oh,
these like
yeah.
cameo
Cameo.
shout out. It's like a video shout out as opposed to, but
I'm,
I still do
I'm
public.
huge on Cameo.
Are you?
Yeah. What's the
I,
most awkward cameo you've ever gotten?
oh my God. I want like, can you jump up and down in a bikini and turn, but like weird stuff. But I just pass on those. But
Yeah,
most of the
yeah.
time it's just happy birthday or, they're very sweet, or you say something about King, that most of the time people are very sweet. But
I
I
got
just
one to break up with somebody. It was really awkward. Like, I was like, oh, because I'm a D-list celebrity, Vanessa, so I was like,
I'm an S-list celebrity, so I
no,
tell you,
no, you're a
it was.
B-list. So, like, I was like, because the podcast is pretty huge, so my voice is pretty known. I was like, oh, hey, Michelle, this is Brian. This is cameos from you from Brian. Brian said you're a big Razor Wrist fan. He just want you to know he's cheating on you. Something like that. And it was just so awkward, but I have to do it because I need the $10. You know what I mean? Like,
Like I think I charge 50, but there's some, it's like I have to like take a shower, do my hair, put my makeup. I'm not like a dude where it's just like, like you just like do it like that. Like I'm like I set the light up. I like I'm like that's like an hour gig for me for $50. I'm like, I need to put my prices up.
yeah.
But no, people
Especially if
still
you're
want
running around in a bikini, you gotta go to like
to.
200 to 300.
No, I don't jump up and down in a bikini for $50,
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but people still do like an autograph though, because when I do a Comic-Con, that there's a lot of collectors still that they have their wall of their favorite people, and they appreciate that. Or I to me, but actually, one thing that annoys me now is like when I first started doing, not annoys me, but I get it, but everybody has a cell phone now, and they all want a picture with you, right? And I would rather engage with someone and like have a little conversation with them and try and leave them with a nice real memory, because it's all like, oh, let's just take a selfie, let's take a selfie, let's take a selfie, and the moment is kind of lost in a way, that the connection is lost. I mean, yes, they have a picture to look at for the rest of their days, whatever, if they choose to do that,
yeah.
but to me, I'm more about the like connection, one on one, eye to eye, than like, oh, let's just take a selfie for the memory. I mean, I'll do that too, but I think there's been something lost in the last 20 years with that.
Yeah. Well, so like that's why I love my podcast, because when I'm old and dying and stuff, I could listen to this and be like, "Hey, I made the beautiful Vanessa Angel smile."
There you go. There
Right?
you go. Yeah, right. I mean,
Uh,
yeah.
So my last question for you, Vanessa, is if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself,
Mm.
it could be from yesterday or when you were 10 or whatever.
Oh,
What would you tell yourself that you know now? Like what advice
listen
would you?
to your own voice.
Ah,
Be true to your. Sorry, I sounded like a weird school teacher just then.
no, no, I
Um,
liked it. It's for your new movie, Weird
be true.
School Teacher.
No, in all honesty, I have a 23-year-old daughter, and I try to impart this on her, because there's so many voices that come to you like over your development, that you lose sight of. I think we're born into this world, and we have our own essence and our sense of who we are, and then the parents and the friends and the teachers and the society and the churches or whatever the organized with all this stuff comes in and like create, like conditions us to think a certain way. And so for me anyway, I lost sight of like who I was and who, and that to me is, and I've made the biggest mistakes in my life when I haven't listened to my own truth.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's the best advice I could give for anybody that's sort of starting out in their life journey. Um, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to really know what your truth is, and it's hard to know what makes you happy. Like what is I spent most of my life trying to please other people and do things for other people, and it's literally taken me to my 50s to really understand that I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great answer. For some reason, I thought you were going to say, okay, Vanessa, like I'm being Vanessa Angel for in this minute. All right, Vanessa, this is an Asperger thing. Sorry, Vanessa. Uh, hey, I'm Vanessa Angel from you from the other day. I just want you to know if Keith Reza asks you to do his podcast, say no.
Oh, I thought your last question would be like, Vanessa Angel, will you marry me? But yeah, so that's
Ah, that's for part
disappointing.
two. I wanted to do it like in a more romantic way, like part two. Like this is
Like
the
at a
first.
basketball game or something on the.
No, no, no. I'm. So here's how I would do it. Right. Uh, First of all, do you like fortune cookies?
Sure.
Okay. So I would say, Vanessa, thank you so much for doing my podcast. Here's a box of fortune cookies. And you'd be like, oh, why, thank you, Keith. I love doing your podcast and I love fortune cookies. So you would eat the fortune cookie, right? And then you would see the little note and you'd be like, oh, there's a note. I have to read my fortune. And the fortune says, Vanessa Angel, will you marry me?
Okay. Well, I will give you an answer on the next time you interview me. How's that?
Awesome. Great. Vanessa, thank you so much for doing this. It was a real honor to meet you. And,
Oh, likewise. Thank you. It
you
was
know,
fun.
thank you for being the highlight of my day. And
Oh,
I really appreciate that. So thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much. I appreciate meeting you too.
All right. Air
Uh,
5.
bye.
Bye, Vanessa Angel.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was an interview. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week.